Welcome back to episode 15 of The Daily Entrepreneur. I'm Josh here with Jack and James. We got some awesome topics for you guys. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Today, we have Apple CEO Tim Cook is the latest to question the metaverse. He thinks that most people don't even understand what it really is, let alone spend a lot of time within it. What are you guys' thoughts on this?
I think he really believes in the metaverse. I'll say that. And the reason why I say that is because I really think that his ultimately coming out and saying that is because Apple is in competition with Facebook to kind of be that next, augmented reality, virtual reality. We saw that they have headsets set to come out in January that are augmented reality. And I think that those two companies are actually kind of right now in the process of competing with one another to really build that next component that's going to be kind of an everlasting change to media and society as it is.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is Tim Cook, knocking Meta while they're down, but I do agree with him to some extent. I think that, the average person can't really grasp on what the metaverse is and getting into it. I do agree with him on that. The other thing is that the only way that you can join the metaverse is if you have the headset, which the average person definitely does not have one of those AR, VR headsets. And that causes a real problem for any company that's trying to make a metaverse and be able to, apply it at scale. It's difficult to be able to get people to want to get into the metaverse if they can't even join because they don't want to spend the money on the proper equipment. Whereas something like Facebook is free. Joining the metaverse, you have to actually get equipment to be able to join that. So I do agree with him, not only in the construct that people in concept don't really understand what it is, and especially because Meta, I wouldn't say, has perfected their craft with the metaverse, despite all the money being poured into it, and as well as the equipment is the additional cost that's keeping people from joining. So I definitely agree with him, but I wouldn't be surprised if I agree with you, James, in the fact that I think that Apple does have something up their sleeve. This is something I easily could see them. They have plenty of products out there in the hands of consumers that they easily could develop something very similar to the Meta headset and try to make it like $99 or something affordable, added into the rope of Apple products that people just keep coming and buying, and then could potentially beat out Mark Zuckerberg and Meta with this.
Well, if there's one thing we know about Apple is it's definitely not going to be affordable. It's not going to be if we're looking at glasses here, it's not going to be $100, bro. It's probably going to be $200, $250 at least. And I mean, I think his kind of stance on it is yes, that he definitely is shaming Facebook on this, but it is like you guys said, they are investing into AR VR, as well as the Snap CEO also said something very similar, and he said that doesn't really know how he feels about the metaverse, not a big believer of it right now. But Snapchat in their literal UI uses AR VR type technology in their product. But I will say, even though I'm not a big believer in the metaverse, if there is a company right now that is going to make it happen, it most likely is Facebook. They bought Oculus, which is easily the most innovative, AR, VR, headset in the game right now. So I don't really know how I feel about, Tim Cook and Apple, what they're going to come out with, but it's going to be interesting to see, the landscape over the next year or two.
Yeah, and one last thing that I'll kind of add is like you said, Meta is definitely not anywhere near where it is going to need to be in order to get the masses to integrate to the platform. And the reason being is because, like you said, it's definitely not affordable. There's not a general understanding amongst the public. But I think if they can gradually, over the next 5 to 10, or whatever their kind of plan is, to get that to scale to where it is more affordable, more people have an understanding, people are more excited about it, they're more willing to go off of these other platforms and more comfortable kind of going into that virtual online world, then I think that they can gradually progress, and eventually I think the metaverse will eventually come to fruition.
Yeah, I think the metaverse is definitely a possibility for the future, but if I had to give a timeline on it, not for another 5-10 years.
For sure. And one last thing I'll say, I'm much more of a fan of the real world as opposed to that. I just think that there's definitely going to be application there, whether it's for stuff like online shopping, watching sports games, from where it looks like you're in person but you're really at home. I think all that type of stuff is going to be done there, which I think that's the exciting part about it.
There's plenty of application. They just can't do it at scale right now. Yeah. Not enough people are ready to get on board. And there's another piece in that article where he said, I don't really see people spending long periods of their life involved in this thing, putting this headset on and sitting there for hours on end of their life.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be the case at all right now. I think people would maybe treat it like a video game if they are using it, but you never know where things are going to go in 5 to 10 years. If that becomes the norm, and that's where all their friends are, and that's where all their shopping takes place, and that's where all the companies are going in the VR, AR space, then people are going to slap the headset on and stay in there as long as they need to.
My one concern for this is I feel like Metaverse right now might be one of those things of like the PSP. Remember that like gaming system we had growing up? Is great idea, wrong time. Mm-hmm. And that was super innovative, way ahead of its time when it was released, but it just didn't get the attention and the love it deserved because it just wasn't the right time for that to come out.
I think it could stick around. It really is just like that thing. If you can provide it to people at scale, then it's not going to die out. Otherwise, then only people that are really invested right now, who are willing to go out and buy the headset, throw it on, and actually use it, those are the only people that it's going to reach, and then it would die out. But if they are able to continue to try to find a way to get this thing into, accessible to the public like a Facebook, then I think they'll have a chance to have some longevity with this.
And our next topic today is that Kim Kardashian had to pay the SEC nearly $1.3 million for promoting a cryptocurrency project. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
Yeah, and it said that the SEC, they have a rule that where if you're a celebrity or an influencer and you're promoting a crypto project, you have to note that you were paid to promote it, because otherwise it could be misleading investors to want to invest in something that they didn't know you were paid to promote and don't actually know whether the benefits or the harmful effects of putting their money into this cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see. I wonder how much she got paid for that actual promotion.
So I can tell you right now, it was Ethereum Emax's, or let me see the name. Yeah, Ethereum Max. That was the name of the project or the coin token that she was promoting. She got paid $250,000 to promote it. The SEC made her pay in fines $260,000. So it was the $250K that she was paid to promote it, plus $10,000, which was the interest, and an additional $1 million in penalties. So
wow.
Yeah, which is crazy. And it's kind of like the SEC, it's their big shot at like influencers and celebrities, letting them know that, hey, if you're coming out to give financial advice and authorize that, telling people that, oh, you should be looking to invest in this, when in reality, that's probably not the best investment for the majority of the people that are going to end up buying into it. So
yeah.
It's kind of like their shot at them saying, hey, you can't do that. You gotta, if you're going to do it, you have to disclose how much you got paid to promote it.
So I will say, one is it feels like they're really putting their foot down on her for that, like with the $1 million in fines. But I have to say, is it just me, or does that seem a little bit low? Like, I'm actually kind of surprised it's only $250,000 compared to with how many followers she has and just the general influence that she has.
Well, I think it wasn't just like a tweet that she put out.
It was an Instagram post.
It was an Instagram post.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That does seem pretty low, to be honest.
Yeah.
But my thing is that, I do kind of agree that this was kind of necessary, just because I'm all for if for paid posts, I'm all for brand deals, and in the crypto space, I'm all for it, just as long as people understand that they need to do their own research and they need to really understand what they're investing in before they put their money into a project. I think that was a big problem with the whole crypto and NFT space as to why so many people are getting scammed, is because people are getting so caught up in this hot topic and these buzzwords, and they're all this heat and attention, especially when crypto was hot. And NFTs like, oh, you got to get into this now. You got to get into this now. And people had this big fear of missing out. And so they just started putting their money in places with the big hopes of hitting it big, kind of like the lottery. And when the market crashed or there was a rug pull on a project, they lost a ton of money. And so the only way to really prevent this is if you let people know that, hey, you see these advertisements, this was paid for. You need to really understand that it's just like any product on TV. It's just you don't see every commercial that you get and get so hot up that I got to go buy this or I got to get this. You do your research on the product. You should be doing that for crypto and NFTs as well. And I think people are just so caught up in trying to make a ton of money that they fail to do that and end up getting burned in the process. So I do understand them, fining for this kind of stuff, because it is harmful if people don't know that, like, oh, she doesn't actually believe in the cryptocurrency. She's just the vehicle to promote it, and she's being paid to do so. So I don't even know if this is good or not, but I at least know what their name is, so I still have the name recognition. That's really what people should just be taking these advertisements as. It's just a way for brands to get their names recognized.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with you in the fact that they really do need to put their foot down and that it really should be listed as, hey, I am promoting this product. But I also feel like people, like, this day and age, you got to know, man. Like, you got to know of, like, hey, this is clearly a promotion, whether it's posted like that or not. Like, do you really think Kim Kardashian is promoting, crypto just, like, on, like, a casual Instagram post? It just, there's all her feed, right? Like, modeling.
Oh, it's got proof of stake.
You know?
It's got proof of stake, and here's what's good. I don't.
Yeah, I don't. People, you got to do better. You got to do better.
Yeah. Technology has been evolving for decades, but unfortunately, this hasn't improved the way that students are learning digitally. What are y'all's thoughts on this?
We've seen the classrooms completely kind of change over time with the development of computers in the late 90s and going into the 2000s. We saw iPads come out, we saw smartphones, and now Kindles and all these different variations and forms of technologies throughout class forms. But unfortunately, I think it's way more than that. It's all about the curriculum and creating that education for each person individually that they can kind of learn and evolve, not only getting those core concepts, but also the education that's going to further them when they decide to go to, maybe they want to go to college, maybe they don't, but if they do, then maybe when they get to college, they already have that general understanding to where when they go out into the real world, they have more of a concept of what they want to do as opposed to just having general knowledge of physics and algebra and all the actual applicable skills and an education that's going to prepare them for when they do go out into the workforce.
If there's one thing we've noticed is that the education system hasn't changed until it's been forced to change. When the pandemic happened in 2019, that was when the first time that I actually saw that, like, hey, we're actually going to start to take advantage of the fact that we can do online learning. And I feel like even with that change, we're still so behind on the potential that we can have with education. And what I mean by that is that I feel like with AI now, we shouldn't have the issue of kids can get individual learning programs, because I feel like if there's online programs and online classes, that these programs should be able to analyze, okay, I'm doing really well on this set of math problems and really poorly on these. So it'll give you individual learning lessons on what you need to focus on, what you need to learn, instead of just this outdated, education that we have going on right now.
Well, I think here are my full true thoughts on this. I think it starts early on when kids are first getting into school, kindergarten, first grade, preschool, whatever. There should be some sort of technology or just a way that kids can get marked down that they learn a certain way. Not every kid learns the same way. There's this famous quote, I think it was by Albert Einstein, but I could be wrong. It is, you could judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, but it will believe its whole life that it is stupid. And that's basically meaning that, like, you can't judge everybody on the same way of how they learn. And so there's some people that learn better through audio, there's some people that learn better through video, watching, and there's some people that learn better through tactile, hands-on learning. And so I think that if we really want to do this right, then there should be some development of technology that can be able to really grasp all three of those things. We talked about the Metaverse earlier. I think that there could be huge applications in school if they are able to provide headsets and whatnot to the students at school at scale for low cost, so that way we can apply it to as many students as possible, to where you could put the headset on. Wouldn't you rather, instead of reading a textbook about Jamestown, put the headset on and actually be in there? And there's like a guided tour, and you can watch events take place and stuff like that, versus just watching, a little video on the smartboard and having to read 3 chapters in a textbook. I would much rather do that, especially if you're a visual learner. If you're an audio learner, you have the guided tour.
You'll pay attention and get more out of it.
Exactly.
I'll tell you what, I would be in class every day.
Every damn day. Exactly. And that's why I think that, there can be great applications for a thing like the Metaverse that can really change the education space. But we're not there yet. You still have, even in college, kids sitting in a lecture hall for an hour and a half, not doing anything digitally, just sitting there listening to a professor go on and on and on. in subjects that some of these students don't even need to be taking for their degree.
See, my problem isn't necessarily with like lectures still being a thing. I still think that they're necessary every once in a while. It's more like when it comes to just the individual problem solving for like some of these classes, like maybe learning English or math. Is I really do think that we should start implementing AI to help students grow and learn faster.
Definitely, I think the algorithms could be changed. It's kind of like, have you ever used Quizlet?
Yes.
And so when Quizlet does a quiz thing, it cycles through and really starts to only show you the ones that you weren't doing as well on, so you could get better at those, questions or those vocabulary words. It's kind of like you said, there's nothing wrong with a lecture hall. The thing with the lecture hall, though, that's only good for audio learners. It's only good for however many percentage of people can only really take in and grasp audio learning very well. If you're a visual learner, just watching your professor is not going to be great. And even just a PowerPoint, I don't think does the job for a visual learner. A PowerPoint doesn't do the job for an audio learner. And none of those do anything for people that are so much better being hands-on. I just remember myself, like, the reason why I was, so good early on in school, growing up in Korea, was because every single class we had to do hands-on activities for every single thing that we did. And I loved it because that's the way that I learned. But in this day and age, they don't tailor it per person. And I think with AI, you could do that across the board for all types of learners, but then also for just different algorithms to see how you could better provide problems and questions and be able to help students get better. But we're not there yet.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would just be the best way to bridge the gap because every teacher has different learning style or teaching styles, and what may work for some students will not work for the others. So I think just implementing technology to bridge that gap would be huge.
Thanks so much for watching The Daily Entrepreneur. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a like and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any other episodes. Thank you guys for joining us for episode 15, and we'll see you in the next one.
Hold up. Quote of the day.
What's the quote of the day? You got to risk it for the biscuit.
Amen. You heard it here first.